So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Roswell in the 21st century is a detailed re-examination of the Roswell UFO crash case. I have studied the evidence for more than 30 years, and I now put that evidence under a microscope in a cold case examination of the facts. These facts might not please everyone. They are based on my comprehensive investigation that took years to complete, but they do lead to the conclusion that whatever fell was not built on Earth. The best of Project Blue Book is based on the 22-year-long investigation conducted by the Air Force. But the book goes far beyond that, bringing in evidence that was uncovered long after Project Blue Book was ordered terminated. Using facts that were unavailable to the Air Force investigators, I was able to prove that the Air Force manipulated the data and drew unrealistic conclusions about the UFO sightings reported to them. My different perspective shows there was more to Project Blue Book than even the Air Force knew. Both books are available at Amazon.com.
Join Patty Conklin and Healing Within Radio each week. More than entertainment, Healing Within offers educational, useful tools for everyday life. Listen for help overcoming fear, anxiety, and depression. Patty knows about eliminating cancer, MS, dementia, Parkinson's, and a host of illnesses that we face every day. Life can be good. Life is good. All you need are simple tools to start changing your life. Start right now by visiting pattyconklin.com, PATTICONKLIN. No matter where you are in the world, you can work with Patty through Skype, phone, or in person, visiting one of her retreats in Georgia. Visit pattyconklin.com today or call our offices at 404-474-0086. That's pattyconklin.com or call 404-474-0086.
Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Hello, and welcome back to Mission Evolution. We're bringing today's leading esoteric and scientific experts to share innovative thoughts and information on the current events affecting the evolutionary process. You, dear listeners, are a very important part of this discussion. Email info@missionevolution.org with any comments or questions. We'll address them on the very next show. So grab your notepad, put on your thinking cap, and together we'll address reframing fear of COVID-19. One thing all life-threatening diseases have in common is the fear factor. Be it cancer, AIDS, or COVID-19, the moment we're diagnosed with one of them, the tendency is to go into fear, catastrophize, and envision the grim reaper shadowing our future. We may be able to pull ourselves out of the terror and deal, but fear dogs us like a stalking beast, ready to take us down without warning. Not only is fear unpleasant to deal with, but it puts us in the survival brain. When in the survival mode of fight or flight, we don't have access to higher thought, logic, compassion, or spirituality. Not only is this stressful on the body, but it drops our overall frequency, compromising the immune system. It renders us incapable of making sound decisions, none of which is conducive of healing. Is there a way to reframe our concept of life-threatening disease? Can we find gratitude for the lessons, thus switching back into the front brain where logic, grounding, and spirituality reside? With us this hour to share why cancer taught her not to fear coronavirus is Kari E. Gray. Kari is the author of How Cancer Saved My Life and How It Saves Yours Too. She's the CEO and founder of AlternaCare, a 501c3 nonprofit whose mission is reevaluating health, health care, and health insurance holistically. As a 3-decade terminal cancer conqueror, Kari has distilled healthcare reform into 6 pillars for change, launching her vision as a 2020 membership community. AlternaCare is Kari's pay-it-forward humanitarian project, bringing holistic organic answers to people who want sustainable results. Her website, alternacare.org. Kari, on behalf of our listeners and myself, thanks for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Thank you so much. Love being here. You guys are really an awesome audience, so aligned with what we're doing.
Yes, it is. It's fun. Beautiful people listen and respond, by the way. So, Kari, what is your educational background?
Well, I would say, outside of the traditional, obviously, education system, I have a background in insurance. That was where I was licensed through. And then I also have a background in finance. And most of my education really has come from what I would call boots on the ground learning. So, a lot of life experience and a lot of self-taught. I'm an avid researcher, so I really love digging into things. And then also I've been on my own spiritual journey as a Bible researcher for about 40 plus years now. So I'm a lifetime learner. I'm a perpetual student because I just find that, we never really get to that place in life where we need to stop learning, because learning not only keeps us young, but it really gives us a fresh new perspective on so many things.
So by researcher, now, are you trained in the scientific method, or do you just mean digging around and finding wonderful things on your own?
Yes, that's what I mean. The B, it would be true of me. So no, I'm not a scientist, but definitely love finding, I love truth seeking in whatever form that comes in. So whether it's health or whether it's spirituality or whether it's, so many other things in life that we just need that clear foundation of.
So how did you become interested in reinventing health and health care?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. And the truth of the matter is that I would have never put myself, 30 years ago, I would have never seen myself in this place. But sometimes life has a way of throwing you off the deep end. And, when I went through cancer, I found that, health insurance and health care, I found them to be, really disconnected. Like, as an example, when you're diagnosed terminal and you're told, as I was, that there is no chance of survival, you're too far advanced for chemo and radiation. What I realized was at that point that, obviously I didn't have much time to make some really big decisions, whatever that decision would be. And I wanted my eulogy, I at least left my children with, was that I would have exhausted all options, right, before I gave up or before my life was over. So that was the goal. Now, going into that, what came out of it is that after dealing with health care and health insurance, I realized how dysfunctional the whole system was. And when I got my clean bill of health a year later is when I realized that things really need change. Now, it took me a long time to figure out how to really do that. And so that's where I am today, which is taking that entire body of knowledge to figure out how to untangle what has been made very, very, constricted and confusing. Really, it almost seems by design. And so that's what brought me here.
So you'll be addressing life-threatening disease and health care from a survivor's standpoint, not of a medical professional. Is that correct?
That is correct. Now, I also am a health coach. So I do health coaching, but no, I'm not a licensed medical professional.
Why do you think you faced cancer at such an early age?
That is a fantastic question. And, After years of research, I've concluded there are a number of factors. The first one that actually kind of really gave me the aha moment that brought me clarity in all of this was when my holistic practitioner slash health coach had taken me through a journey of really untangling my entire life, learning how to deal with stress, learning how to reduce stress, learning how to remove the toxin load that I was dealing. I had so many toxins. But, one day after this had gone on for months and months and months of making all these life changes, dietary changes, all kinds of sweeping changes in my life, she finally said to me, "There's nothing else I can do for you." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Because the problem you have isn't physical, it's also emotional." And that is when she introduced me to what she called emotional clearing. And now today, when I look back, I can see that what emotional clearing did was it helped me to remove the energy blocks that adverse childhood experiences, they're called ACEs, really leave us with, these scars, these childhood scars. So I had a lot of, adverse situations as a very young person. And what I didn't realize that I do now is those really set us up by lowering our frequency to such a degree that a disease like cancer can result. So for me, my journey through cancer just helped me to understand not what we call the mind-body experience, but just to understand the whole frequency matter and how when we're lowering our frequency through adversity and through trauma, we're actually suppressing our own immune system. And so in whatever way that works, different people have it at different times. Sometimes the trauma comes later in life, but you can always mark every catastrophic illness to something emotional that happened before. It's always the predecessor.
So tell us about how you were impacted emotionally by your diagnosis.
That is a loaded question for sure. Thank you for asking that as well. It's one of those things. I think people call it the unthinkable for a reason, because most of the time when your mind starts going to that place, it's so horrific that you feel this panic that you can't even continue to go there. When you are there, it's like the nightmare that you can't wake up from. When you have a bad dream and you wake up and you just have that wash of relief, it was just a dream. But that's what cancer feels like every single moment. It feels like the nightmare that there just is no waking up from. In fact, when you wake up, the reality is worse than the dreams that maybe you were having. So, it's a really fearful place when you don't understand not only how you got there, but the signal that the body is sending that says that I need you to change what you've been doing. And really today, if I were diagnosed again, it would be a completely different situation. Not only do I, proactively do what I can to not be diagnosed, but to also just understand that really that's what cancer is. It's just the body's way of making clear, like an alarm system. If your smoke alarm is going off and you got the pan on the stove and it's spewing out the smoke, you don't shut off the smoke alarm, you take the pan off the fire. Well, so often what we're doing in life is that we're trying to suppress the alarm system. And that's what cancer really is. It's like the final alarm, helping us to realize that what we've been doing is really not been in our best interest. So that was a real takeaway for me.
We have just a little bit of time left in this segment. How do you think fear impacted your ability to deal with the disease?
Wow, you have got some great questions. Today, that what I understand about fear being a very low frequency emotion, fear is definitely what is monetized. Fear is where the money is made. And this is why the conventional medical model doesn't want people to be educated, informed, enlightened, empowered.
We are going to have to go back into that on the other side of this commercial break. That's a fascinating topic. Kari and I will return shortly, so you folks don't go away. You're listening to Mission Evolution, coming to you on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Are you looking for psychic services that empower as well as provide accurate information? Jenny is a third-generation psychic with extensive esoteric training. A practicing professional intuitive for over 30 years, her accuracy is astounding. While most psychics can read what will happen to you if you don't change directions, Jenny understands the future is subjective. While there is a river of time we all traverse, that river has many waves, eddies, currents, and tributaries from which to choose. With Jenny as your guide, you can explore the many possible outcomes in the river of time and navigate your course to the one of your liking. Take control of your future. Book your life-changing session with Jenny today at www.gen-e.net. That's www.gen-e.net.
Mission Evolution is dedicated to the well-being of the planet and animals, as well as the evolution of humankind. One major factor threatening all three is increasing toxicity. Heavy metals and other environmental toxins are poisoning our bodies, deteriorating our brains, blocking our spiritual connection, and shortening our lives. Yet these poisons are extremely difficult to remove. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, and I recently became aware of a product created from the marriage of nature and nanotechnology called Vitality. It's formulated from zoolite, whose crystalline structure binds toxins, gently carrying them out of the body. The light is only as clear as the window through which it shines. Clear your body, shine your light into the world. Visit vitalityhappens.com for a 20% discount. Enter code PATHHOME.
In the mid-1990s, I was approached by a young woman who believed she'd been abducted by alien creatures. In conversations, I began a journey that took me not into the world of interstellar travel, but back through time into past lives. Under hypnotic regression administered by a professional rather than describing abduction, Jenny, as she is called, begins to tell a tale of horror in 19th century London. Her unbelievable past life seems to connect with Jack the Ripper and other monsters of the past. Throughout the session, Jenny provides a rich detail of her past lives that links some of the most horrific killers in history to one another. Using the resources of a university library in the pre-internet's day, I was able to verify some of Jenny's claims. She has knowledge that wasn't readily available to a suburban housewife. Does this prove the reality of her tales? Conversations attempts to answer that and other provocative questions. Conversations is available at Amazon.com.
Hello again. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. To all our faithful and thoughtful listeners, we really value your opinion and would love to hear from you. What do you think about the relationship between COVID-19 and other life-threatening diseases? This information in from a member of our audience regarding the episode entitled Reframing the Universe, Evolving Consciousness. LD shares, I don't get how evolving consciousness can help us with COVID-19 crisis. Thanks for your input, LD. In response, I would quote Albert Einstein. We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. Now, I propose this is a time when evolution of consciousness could bring innovative solutions. Curious, dear audience? Visit our archives at missionevolution.org, listen to the episode entitled Reframing the Universe, Evolving Consciousness, and let us know what you think. Email me at info@missionevolution.org and give me your thoughts or questions so we can all share them on the next show. With us this hour discussing what cancer taught her about surviving disease is Kari Gray. Her website, alternacare.org. Kari, just before we went into the break, we were talking about monetizing through fear and how fear affects our ability to heal. Would you mind continuing with that?
Yes, absolutely. You know, if you think about fear in a well, for the listeners who are aware of this and for those who aren't, I would recommend doing a Google search for the chart. It's called the Human Frequency Chart. It's a chart developed by Dr. David Hawkins. So Stephen Hawkins is very famous, but Dr. David Hawkins' work of helping us to graph what emotions look like is such a powerful visual aid, because what it really helps us to understand is that there is a sequential order of emotions, kind of like keys on the keyboard that, are higher and lower in sound frequency. Well, in emotional frequency, fear is a very low frequency. Okay, so it's down there with like guilt and um, anger and shame. Okay, so these are very low frequencies. And anybody that's ever been in those places emotionally understands, usually a person feels very powerless. They feel very weak when they're in those mental spaces. So, what fear does is it really positions us to be at our weakest. And if you think about in ancient times, cities were walled, right? So a walled city was a fortress. But if the gates were left wide open, the walled city was of no protection. And that's really what fear is like. It's like letting in what many may be familiar with is the Trojan horse. The Trojan horse was the gift from one empire to another where they couldn't invade the normal way. So they brought in the gift of, that had the invading army, right, from Troy. And so the point of this is that when we let fear in, it does the work that basically nothing else can, because it is such a pervasive emotion that weakens us in so many ways. So it's really, really important. I cannot stress this enough, how important it is to not only be able to identify fear, but then to replace it with a higher frequency emotion like being empowered, being educated, and being enlightened. Those will take fear and squash it.
So, what ways have you learned to deal with the understandable fear caused by having a life-threatening disease?
Yes. Well, that was where my blessing came. First of all, I have to always start this conversation by saying that I give all credit to my Heavenly Father, because I prayed. I was on my knees for days begging. As a 25-year-old mother of three small children, I knew that my
That's
children.
heartbreaking. It's
Yes.
just heartbreaking, yeah.
Yes, I knew that my children needed their mother, and I was abandoned by my mother. So I've really understood the impact that a mother has in a child's life, and I couldn't bear the thought of giving that to my children. So I begged for the wisdom to know what to do, and it was through a series of epiphanies that started happening to me. Like, for instance, what if there's something doctors don't know? Just that one epiphany helped me to start like gaining some life back, because when I was in that dark place where I my life was being taken from me by just the words, okay, I could feel my body preparing to die. I could feel my will to live leaving me. And it was very horrific, because I'm a very vivacious person, and I am like, what is going on with me? Well, this nightmare was playing over and over in my mind, this movie of all of my children's life and how they would, have these big milestones in life, always overshadowed by this dark cloud that mom's not here. So, it really just helped me to understand that what I needed right now was to not give in to the fear, but to really channel my emotions into being fearless, being willing to make changes, being willing to do whatever it took to not be emasculated by what fear was trying to do to me. Because what I came to realize is what the mind believes, the body achieves. And that's why it's so critically important to make sure you don't lose control of your thinking.
I think acknowledging what the fear, acknowledging how you're feeling, but then not going down the rabbit hole of catastrophizing and prophesizing what the future is going to look like. Isn't that the key? Because you can't just deny that you're afraid. You
Right.
can't just deny that you're ill. Isn't
Right.
it that taking it and running the real problem?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm saying, like, for me, this movie kept playing in my mind, which is what I realized that, wasn't how my story needed to end. I didn't need my story to end that way. And I really appreciate what you just said, that we definitely can be our own worst enemy, as they say, right, by the things that we think. But we can also be our best ally by the things that we think. So that's the reason why acknowledging that, and that's why I love the visual aid of the human frequency chart, because when we realize whatever emotion it is, when we realize where we are on a numerical scale, is when we realize that we can change that scale simply by choosing. See, choosing to change where you are emotionally is the powerful choice that none of us was ever taught.
And by the time we reach, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but there, if we haven't been processing, if we haven't been re-examining, if we haven't been doing emotional release, we're so bogged down by the past that it rears its ugly head every time we're stimulated in the future or in the present. How can you deal with that?
That's a fantastic question. Well, this is where, I actually have been health coaching someone right now that is really interesting you bring this up because she has had lots of different random illnesses and has been to multiple doctors and hospitals with all kinds of random illnesses. And finally, after, really understanding her situation, what I really recommended that she realize is that the change has to come from within. That while she's having all these because I've seen her, very real, very, very sick episodes, but really what she needed to do was start untangling the trauma that she had been storing and had been collecting. Collecting trauma is really a very unhealthy pattern. And it's something that until you identify it, you don't even realize what you've been doing. But it also can be the thing that can be part of your success story once you start realizing that I have some internal work to do, whether it's forgiveness, whether it's, and forgiveness is really, if you look on the human frequency chart, all healing starts at forgiveness. And if you think of every 10 or 12 step program, they always start with forgiveness. So it really is a powerful emotion, whether it's to forgive yourself, to forgive others, and just consider that not to be a way that you're paralyzed for the rest of your life by that episode, but to really realize that that was part of your journey and that you can learn from it, and your story of how you conquered or you overcame that will inspire other people.
Well, that's evolution in its purest form, isn't it? Is being
Yes.
able to evolve beyond our conditioning and into our potential.
Yes, I agree.
Beautiful. You say cancer saved your life. What do you mean by that?
Well, as a young person, I'll just say it like this. I grew up in the 70s. Okay, I think we get what that means, but for those who don't, it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Believe me, I did all of it, okay? So which means that I had absolutely no regard for the sanctity of life, and I had no concern or mental awareness that there were consequences for my actions. And even though I didn't do it for, a lot of years, the way sometimes people do it for a lifetime, I did it for a few years. And so that was one. And then, I transitioned from that lifestyle into being extremely responsible and a person who had way too much stress. So again, not understanding the impact, because I was a very strong-willed person, always have been, and really kind of felt, I would say, a bit cocky. Because I never really had consequence for the decisions that I had made. But when I faced cancer at a young age, what it really taught me was not only to start valuing life in a way that I had never done, but to also realize that cancer was my alarm that really was waking me up to the things that not only was I taking for granted, but for the fact that the things that I was doing were causing this health crisis. So it really helped me to just do a complete remodel of my life. And, some of the things that I had to redo in my life took a few years, but thankfully I had switched my frequency enough that I was able to sustain like even a bad marriage until that finally ended. But it was just one of those situations that it really is an opportunity to reinvent yourself. And
well, it's that magic moment. It's time
right.
for us to take another quick pause. Kari and I will return to our discussion shortly, so you stay right there. This is Mission Evolution. We're coming to you on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
How would your life change if you could develop the business and personal skills that you need in order to make more money? Do you want to learn how to achieve your big life goals faster? Then go to findhiddenmoney.com and get the Goal for It online course. The course teaches you how you can set and achieve your biggest goals while completely overcoming the roadblocks to your goals so that you can realize your dreams and imagine more success. Go to findhiddenmoney.com.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide. Audience, if you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Memorable dynamic presentations are a not-so-secret weapon in the business world. Do you have a powerful message that must be shared, but you haven't found a way to deliver that message? Do you want to be known as a top public speaker who gets amazing results? Are you ready to create and deliver your powerful message? Thomas Hides can help you create and deliver your speech to get the results you desire. Visit iconquality.com.
Welcome back. This is Mission Evolution. Did you know our entire Leading Edge information-packed past episode collection is available to listen or download with our compliments? Visit our archives at www.missionevolution.org for our ever-growing selection of guests and topics. Our special guest this hour is Kari Gray. We're speaking about dealing with life-threatening diseases from a survivor's standpoint. Her website, alternacare.org. Kari, we were working with, you mentioned one thing I'd like to go into, is stress. Now, stress, is very detrimental to our health. I mean, that's been proven over and over and over again, from heart attacks to it just goes down the road. However, stress is a natural component in life. So how can we change our approach to stress if it's going to be a given anyway, so that it's not so impactful?
Fantastic question. I think of stress, well, let me back up and just say this. One of the most profound things that I learned in health was I learned two very important things. One is to understand the electrical system of the body, or to understand that we are electrical beings. So we're either charging our energy battery or we're draining it, okay? And the other thing that I learned that was so impactful was the difference that you mentioned in your intro between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system. So stress lives in the sympathetic state. Stress is our survival mechanism, which is great for a short-term visit, right? But it's a bad neighborhood when we try to live there. And everything in the world that we're in tries to keep us in a bad neighborhood. But what we have to consciously, and it is a conscious choice, is to recognize not only when we are hypervigilant, when we've been here for too long and it's time to take a vacation, it's time to move our location, do whatever we've got to do, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually, or all of the above, to move out of that stress state and to move into a place where our body can repair, relax, reinvigorate, just there's all the places of healing and make the cleansing organs start working better, because the body can only do one of two things. It can either always be in survival mode or it can be in repair mode. It's not going to be in both. And that is the thing that I think was just really important for me to understand, is just like you can't sit on two sides of the table at the same time, you cannot be in two neighborhoods at the same time. You are either going to be in one or the other. So when you're living in a high stress life, it's time to make some life changes.
But within that, oftentimes those life changes are not easy or obtainable right away. Mm-hmm. Is there a way that we can take the good neighborhood into the center of the bad neighborhood, come out of our survival brain and into our logic and compassion and spirituality?
Absolutely. Well, each one of the things that you just listed are part of that journey, and I am a big advocate of spirituality because it really is the facilitator that moves us quickly from a bad place of survival into a better place of peace and healing. And if you, again, and I'm referring to the human frequency chart as the visual aid, when you look at the chart, what you'll see is that as you're continuing up the chart from things like fear and courage to make a change, and that's really one of the powerful emotions here that we really start engaging change or shift, is when we just make the courageous choice that in spite of our circumstances or our environment or where we came from or who we're around or whatever, that we're going to start making the change because we're choosing choice. We're choosing to use our free will in a very powerful way. And that helps us start moving up the frequency chart, or in other words, expanding so that we're not contracting, to be able to get into the happier emotions, so that even in a state that's not ideal, you can still be in that space in your inside, because it's really not an environment, it's really an internal ecosystem.
That's exactly how we respond to where we are, not where we are, when it comes right down to it. And, I think that bearing in mind that when we're in fight or flight, when we're in the monkey brain, if you will, we're in fear, we're very controllable. And so there's a lot of systems out there that would like to control the masses, to get them to buy this, to do that. And so a lot of our systems are designed around keeping people in fear. Could you speak to that just a little?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is the thing that I think is so empowering for us, is that when we come to realize that, the conventional systems, and I'll just illustrate this with one example, the fast food industry takes studies of people in an MRI, and it watches how the brain ignites in basically in a dopamine, with dopamine receptors, to fast food. When you realize that you're being that manipulated, that they're using medical science in a way to trick you and to deceive you into being a food addict. Now, I don't know about your listeners, but stuff like that does not set well. I am not a person who wants to be manipulated by someone who has an agenda. And that really is the earmark that so much is going on in our world today, is keeping people undereducated, keeping in the fearful state. And one thing that I read years ago that just was a profound aha moment was that when emotions are high, logic is low. And you mentioned it in your intro about, the parts of the brain that we're thinking with, right? And so if we can be kept in a place where we're in constant state of fear of the next thing or the next crisis or whatever, then obviously the masses can be very controlled because they're undereducated. And so education is such a key component to shifting where we live and not being in the bad neighborhood.
So, but we have to be careful where we're being educated now, don't we?
Yes, absolutely. And when I say educated, I mean truth. Educated in truth, not educated by the fear mongers. Yes, absolutely.
Do you have a key, you personally, because we're talking about your personal experience here, do you have a key that lets you know when you're starting to slide into being controlled by fear? Is there a body symptom or something that gives it away?
Absolutely. There are many indicators that sometimes we're not aware of. Shallow breathing is one. A raised heart rate. You can sometimes feel or hear your heartbeat. That would be another indicator. I would say a poor sleep. Those are real key indicators, and even maybe like a nervous grazing of food. That's another indicator that we're really, we're not in a relaxed state. We're not in an ideal environment for optimum wellness and well-being.
That ideal environment, it's a rare commodity, and yet it's the natural way, isn't it? It's what our body naturally wants, what nature wants to provide for us.
Absolutely. It's our Garden of Eden living, right? And that really has such a profound impact when you realize that our natural state is to be in a paradise. That's why everybody feels so good when, you go to the beach or you go to the woods or you're in a hike or, all the things, because all of those are donating electrons of energy to a body that's very drained. See, this is why I was saying earlier about understanding that, if you have a meter and the needle is facing straight up north, right, and then things are tilting the meter one direction or the other, well, when you realize that meter is like our perfect self, like our ideal environment, but then what side of the meter are the things in our life tilting us? And now this is when you can start making the choice that these things either aren't serving me and you need to reduce them as much as possible, or these things are energizing me and you want to have them in your life as much as possible. And it's like change doesn't happen overnight, but when you become aware that they need to make a change, you can start creating the shift.
So there's no replacement for self-awareness and mindfulness. How can we start to develop those in our life?
Wow, great question. Well, I think the way that you start developing them is to first realize that it's time for change, and that the change has to start from within. And the change has to also start with, being one of the things that I really have been very blessed with in my life has been, being in the company of people who spoke truth, shared truth with me in a way that truth never contradicts itself. It's just such a beautiful thing that I love about truth. And so when you hear truth, it has this resonance that you just wow, yes, you get the goosebumps, right? Because you realize that this is life-changing knowledge. And so it really is really powerful to be aligned with people who are sharing truth and, to just embrace that as much as possible. And to, we all have the same 24 hours a day, and the way we spend our money is like the way we spend our time. So we want to do so very carefully. And we want to make sure that, the way we spend our time isn't in a way that lowers our frequency or lowers our energy, but enhances it.
Well, truth is a high frequency. There's no escaping that. And when we're in a company of people that are invested in and sharing the truth, a resonance is formed. So it's like 1 + 1 = 2,000 in that case. Do you find that extremely helpful?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is beautiful, and it's really how the Bible says iron sharpens iron, right? So when you want to sharpen your scissors or sharpen your knife, right, you use something that makes it more impactful, right? The efforts that you take. So that's definitely the company that we keep has a very big bearing. And, company that we keep isn't just the people in our life, but it's the media that we're consuming. And it's the things that we're thinking about, even when we're alone with our thoughts. So definitely we want to guard where we are and who we associate with.
Well, it's time for another commercial break, and we will pick up on this wonderful topic on the other side. Kari and I will be back shortly to continue our discussion, so don't go away. This is Mission Evolution on the wonderful X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
In the mid-1990s, I was approached by a young woman who believed she'd been abducted by alien creatures. In conversations, I began a journey that took me not into the world of interstellar travel, but back through time into past lives. Under hypnotic regression administered by a professional rather than describing abduction, Jenny, as she is called, begins to tell a tale of horror in 19th century London. Her unbelievable past life seems to connect with Jack the Ripper and other monsters of the past. Throughout the session, Jenny provides a rich detail of her past lives that links some of the most horrific killers in history to one another. Using the resources of a university library in the pre-internet's day, I was able to verify some of Jenny's claims. She has knowledge that wasn't readily available to a suburban housewife. Does this prove the reality of her tales? Conversations attempts to answer that and other provocative questions. Conversations is available at Amazon.com.
Mission Evolution is dedicated to the well-being of the planet and animals, as well as the evolution of humankind. One major factor threatening all three is increasing toxicity. Heavy metals and other environmental toxins are poisoning our bodies, deteriorating our brains, blocking our spiritual connection, and shortening our lives. Yet these poisons are extremely difficult to remove. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, and I recently became aware of a product created from the marriage of nature and nanotechnology called Vitality. It's formulated from zoolite, whose crystalline structure binds toxins, gently carrying them out of the body. The light is only as clear as the window through which it shines. Clear your body, shine your light into the world. Visit vitalityhappens.com for a 20% discount. Enter code PATHHOME. Welcome back. This is Mission Evolution, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. I love to hear from our audience. Your thoughts are very important to me. To suggest a topic or guest that you think would be of interest, email us, info@missionevolution.org. This hour, we're sharing thoughts with Kari Gray. Her website, alternicare.org. Kari, what do you think is the connection, in the way you're looking at it, between being a cancer survivor and not being afraid of COVID-19, or just the connection between cancer and COVID-19?
Yes. Well, you know what? They both are. They share a common denominator, and that is immune health. And that is the one thing that I really feel very blessed by cancer, which is why I'm writing a book called How Cancer Saved My Life, How It'll Save Yours Too. Because, one, we understand this one basic truth about how our immune system works. And we've heard, maybe many in your audience have heard about the microbiome. Okay, the microbiome is like the encyclopedia of every virus and every pathogen that we will ever encounter. And unfortunately, because of conventional medical practices, and I was a victim of this, as well as, millions of other people, but when you are inundated with antibiotic use over and over and over, when you are inundated by, toxins that, suppress and repress and, vaccine damage, and I can go on, right, with the kinds of things that shut down our beautiful, life-saving microbiome. When that happens, we are a catastrophe in the making. So what COVID-19 is what cancer was for me, which is it's the wake-up call that says that what we are doing is clearly not working. And while the mainstream wants to promote, excuse me, wants to promote a vaccine for every issue, the truth of the matter is what we need is our own immune system. It's called the innate immune system. We need it to be in high functioning, a high functioning state, so that no matter what we're introduced to, our body can create its own antibody. And that is something that, there's no money in that. So that's not something that we're going to hear from those who have a financial agenda to control the masses into a mindless acceptance of a vaccine. But the truth of the matter is that there are wonderful sciences that help us to understand how we can test our microbiome and how we can identify what is missing so that we have the army that is needed to win the battle. It's been said that you can't win a war without soldiers, and you can't win a battle without an army. Well, we are in a constant onslaught of things that are pathogenic, right? And so whether they're germs or bacteria or viruses or parasites, all these things, come at us. But the bottom line is they wouldn't be a problem if we weren't immune compromised. So cancer is like the alarm system that says you're immune compromised, and so is COVID-19. So what we want to make sure, because this is not the only pandemic, and I'm going to use that word, that we're going to face. There are more than likely that are coming in a biological warfare of humanity here. But the bottom line is if we have our immune system in its optimum performance, we have nothing to be afraid of. And then, of course, guard your thinking, because we don't want the emotional viruses to also lower our own or suppress our own immune system.
Well, you speak of biowarfare. Isn't COVID-19 the natural result of our imbalanced living, habitat encroachment, et cetera, rather than something manufactured?
Well, I have been reading a lot about from the microbiologist and the virologist who say that this cannot happen in a natural state. So it is an encroachment, but it's also from what I'm reading, it seems to be a plan. And again, we could dive deep and probably in another show, but it really does seem that there is a manipulation going on to ramp up the volume so loud on vaccines that people don't even understand what the real issues are that are going on here.
So as a cancer survivor, what changes do you advocate in reinventing health and healthcare?
Well, first of all, to understand how the body works. And that's why we at Alternacare have what we call the Living Prevention Academy. So we want to make sure that people get a real good foundation of how the body works and the things that we're doing that are altering in a very dysfunctional way, that are altering our natural ability to be healthy and well.
Let me ask a
Yes.
quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have medical professionals on the staff at Alternacare?
Yes, we do. We have many doctors that are holistic PhDs, yes. And they're helping us create that coursework.
So
yes.
medical doctors or holistic PhDs?
Both. We have both.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay. I'm sorry. Continue.
That's okay. So, so that is the health piece. Now, the healthcare piece is really solved simply by what is known as energy or quantum medicine. So we know that conventional medicine is in biology and that pharmaceuticals are in chemistry, but the real healing and the real ability to address root cause is in the quantum field. And that is what we call healthy care, which is how we're reinventing healthcare. Now, the third component of that is how to reinvent health insurance holistically. And that's where we're building now the nucleus for a new what's called cost share group that will be supporting what healthy care is about and a healthy lifestyle. So it's all on our website, and it's a huge project that I've been undertaking now for the last 3 years of development of this. But the idea is to serve people who are not being served by the conventional ways of doing things. And while conventional medicine has its place, we're never so alienated from it that we don't need it, because obviously we do, and it has a great place. But the problem has been the monetization of conventional models when it comes to things that are preventable. So we're wanting to switch or reinvent the paradigm where we use healthy care when there is a chronic or even conventional medicine when there's an accident or an injury and it's acute and some sorry, I'm getting feedback. Using alternative medicine and functional medicine when it has its right place. It's a real common sense approach to something that has had no common sense being used in it.
Yeah, I hear you there. So, but here we are in the middle of a pandemic. Mm-hmm. The healthcare systems are already under stress, and now they're overburdened to the max. How do you think your ideas about reinventing health and healthcare could help at this time, or is it going to throw a wrench in the works?
Mm-hmm. Well, it would totally help at this time. Bottom line is, if we keep people in a place of wellness, they're not going to be. So we really have the key component to solving the matrix, as I outlined. So living a health educated, understanding how to get to root causes, and then ultimately being able to have a sustainable way to manage those healthcare costs without waiting until there's a crisis. See, what conventions are about is about crisis management, but the cost-effective way to solve the problem is to do it when it's just a small, when it's just a little burning ember, right? Not waiting till there's a forest fire to deal with.
We definitely have that forest fire nipping at our backsides at this point. And it would appear that COVID is here to stay. How do you see holistic organic answers helping move forward, given that?
Great question. Well, the way that I see it is that there are millions of people who do not subscribe to what the conventional model is about. Our hashtag is prevention, not prescription. People that really feel that the old adage of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And so if we shift the paradigm and we stop being reactive and be proactive, we can reverse engineer what has been going wrong and has been wrong for so very long.
So what advice can you offer someone facing a life-threatening disease at this point?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. And the most important thing I can say right now is don't give in to fear and don't lose hope, because your body has an amazing ability to heal. All you need to do is start making the changes that give the body the ability to create a healing process.
Well, we're just about out of time. Where can people find out more about Alternacare?
Well, they can see us at our website, Alternacare. TERNACARE.
Wonderful. And you've been running this for about 3 years?
Yes. So the foundation, we actually had a beta project we did before Alternacare, called Greensurance. And so we had that project for several years. We created a small community, and then we used the beta information from that to start building the real foundation for change, which is what Alternacare is now, that will be launching this year.
Fantastic. Well, unfortunately, Kari, we're out of time. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Our guest this hour has been Kari Gray, the author of How Cancer Saved My Life and How It Saves Yours Too. She's CEO and founder of Alternacare. Her website, alternacare.org. Remember, our entire information-packed episode collection is available for listen or download free of charge. Please visit our archives at www.missionevolution.org for our ever-growing selection of guests and topics. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Join us next time as the mission continues, bringing information, resources, and support to an evolving world. Until then, until we meet again, be safe, be well. We've got this.